Welcome back to another episode of the PHA PICKEM. Today we got a huge set of games for you. I'm going to scoot over. I feel like I don't know what's going on there. Huge slate of games today. We had a huge weekend last week. We went about 50% off of about 33 plays, I think, in total. Around the 30-ish plays. I will take that every day of the week. 500 on 30 plays. If you followed the picks, I know you had as just an exciting weekend as I did. Up and down, up and down. It was great football all week, and we got it again for you this week. We're going to just tweak a little bit right now, the show. So if you remember, to start the show this year, we're going down the card. Just all card, no specific games that we're going to highlight, just down the card, because at the time, this was the only college football show we had. However, now that we have this past weekend in college football, where we get to go more in-depth than actual college football, we're going to go back to the old school ways, because we're going to pick the top 5 games, because I know those are the games that everyone's watching, and that if you're going to watch those games, you probably want to have a pick on them. So we're going to go 5 big games, and then I'm still going to give you the whole card, all right? So we're going to start with our 5 big ones. We're not going to get crazy here. I'm just going to give you some quick hitters. Get your picks in. It's going to be a huge day. I'm looking to go at least 65% today, okay? We're going to hit it. We've been basically meddling around in mediocrity. Today's the big day for us, all right? So let's go. First game on the slate, we got Clemson, Wake Forest, all right? Clemson favored by 7. Over-under is 55.5. This game is going to have points. Hartman is back for Wake Forest. Huge quarterback for them. If you remember last year's Wake Forest team, they did awesome. He was the quarterback. They clearly can score on almost anyone in the country. It does not matter. However, their defense gave up 36 points last week to Liberty, who many of you might not remember. Their quarterback got drafted in the NFL last year. So they're kind of working on a new system here, new quarterback, still able to put up big points. Clemson, on the other hand, they have a stout defense. I'm not sure about the offense, but last year's offense, which is basically the exact same as this year, put up 48 points on Wake Forest. I look for this to be an absolute shootout. At worst, I think Clemson puts up at least 40. Wake Forest, even if they hit that just demoralizing defense of Clemson, that defense is on the front end, not on the back end. Look for Hartman to throw the football frequently and put up points. They will get at least 27. That gets you to the mark. So we're going over 55.5 for that game. And honestly, mainly because I just don't want to put Clemson -7. I would like to see some change up in college football. So I will probably actively be rooting for Wake Forest in that game. But I want to hit the over 55.5. Next, we head out west-ish to Iowa State. Ames, Iowa. We got Baylor at Iowa State. Iowa State is favored at home in this game, -2.5. Over-under sitting around 47. It's been floating up and down, so I'm not going to give you a hard number. This is an easy one for me. Baylor, I think, is the better team. Iowa State has struggled at best to score points. Only time they've scored was last week when they put up 43 against a dog crap team. I'm going to go Baylor +2.5. I think they've had the better competition. I think they're the better team, and I think they honestly have the better coach as it sits today with more talent. I'll go Baylor +2.5 in that game. Next, we're going to head down to Rocky Top, Tennessee. We've got Florida at Tennessee. Tennessee is favored by 10.5. Over-under is 62.5. A lot of people are jumping on the over on this one. I don't like it. For the same reason I did not like Buffalo, LA over. I think these are two teams that are pretty good. Tennessee might be really good. It's a heated rivalry in-conference game. If you know anything about in-division, in-conference games in the NFL and college football, they generally hit the under, especially this early in the year. Heated rivalry, like I said, I like for this to be a grinded-out type of game. Florida's defense is not that bad, but their offense is kind of stinky. Anthony Richardson, he only has 0 touchdowns. That's right, 0 passing touchdowns. He has the worst completion percentage in the country. On the other end, Hendon Hooker, maybe a Heisman candidate if he can figure his stuff out and Tennessee continues to win. All the talent in the world, potential first-round pick in my eyes. He needs to sling it around the yard to his 2 6'4" receivers, put pressure on that Florida defense. I think it's going to be a much closer game than people realize because of the moment, because of the rivalry. And for that, I'm going to take the Gators +10.5 in a close one, but I do think Tennessee will win this game in a more sloppy-ish style of game. maybe, 27-21, not really getting you to that huge 62 number, but an exciting game nonetheless. Next, we're going to head down to College Station, Arkansas, at Texas A&M. Spread is 1.5 A&M. The over/under is 50. Arkansas has shown that they can score the football with their quarterback KJ running all over the place. They put up big points against South Carolina last week. A&M, I have questions about their offense, but it did look like they entered a new quarterback last week in Max Johnson, the transfer from Auburn. I do think that 50 is such a low number, and this also is a heated rivalry, but it's a heated rivalry that puts up points because it's not these two teams' biggest rivalry. It's just been a rivalry, I guess, of recent where there has been some good games, a lot of trash talk. I'm going to go over 50 just because the number is so low. A&M, I think, will improve on their offense a little bit at home. In Arkansas, I still think, will be able to put up points. I mean, this is going to be a 31-27, 27-24, 25 game. That gets you to the over 50. I like that. It will be a barn burner, I think, down the end for you as far as chewing the nails, hoping we hit the 50. But a good game nonetheless. I don't want to pick a side on this one just because it's just, you'll know within the first 5 minutes of this game who's going to win it. So there's your tip for the day. If you're watching it, watch the first 2 drives of each team and then decide who you're taking, maybe live money line. All right, last game, we're going out to Corvallis, Oregon State. We have USC at Oregon State. This game has a wild over/under that I just cannot trust. It's Oregon State plus 6.5. Over/under is 70.5 points. That is a huge amount of points. I know both these offenses are electric. I just want to see what Oregon State can do in a big moment against a big team. They have not really played anyone that I would consider on the very good side. Not that USC's defense is very good, but their team as a whole is very good. Biggest game probably for Oregon State, not named Oregon, on the year. 70 is just a huge number, and I honestly, if you've been watching this past weekend in college football, I think USC is the second best team in the country right now with that tandem of Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, with all of the transfer talent that came with them, such as Addison from Pitt, who was the Biletnikoff winner last year. He transferred to USC. They can score on anyone in the country. Their defense will probably stop Oregon State at some point. I think it will be a high total game, but I'm looking more at like in the 60s. So I'm going to take USC minus 6. I think they will pull away probably late in the third quarter to make this be a comfortable win coming down the stretch. Alrighty, so if you keep track at home, our Big 5 games had Clemson Wake over 55.5, Baylor plus 2.5, Gators plus 10.5 against Tennessee, Arkansas Texas A&M over 50, and I got USC minus 6. For the rest of the card, we got Duke, Kansas. Yeah, that's right, Duke, Kansas. Over 63.5. Both these teams have shown they can score. Kansas wildly improved. I think this is going to be a shootout out in Lawrence. Love the game. I think it's maybe the quietest game that you're not thinking about right now. I'm going Indiana plus 16.5 against Cincinnati. Both these teams I don't think are great. Indiana is better than they were last year. Cincinnati is worse. And this game was a minus 4 last year. I was at the game. It was much closer than the final score would have intended you to see. So I like Indiana to cover the 16.5. Next, I got James Madison at Appalachian State. Appalachian is favored by 7, but I'm taking James Madison plus 7. James Madison is a top 3 offense in the country right now as far as statistics go. And the last time that they played in Boone, they won the game 35-31. James Madison, quiet giant, their first year as an FBS school. I'm going Washington State plus 6.5 against Oregon. You know how I feel about Bo Nix. He's not good. He does not play well on the road, and that is where he's going. On the road against Washington State. Cam Ward, I like what he has done at Washington State. They might find themselves being a sneaky Pac-12 championship team that people weren't thinking about, so I'll take them plus 6.5 there. I have no idea who Ole Miss is playing, but I don't care. It's a dog crap team. I'm taking them minus 21. Cal is playing Arizona at home. I liked what Cal did last week against what might be a crappy Notre Dame team, but Notre Dame is still Notre Dame. They're not that bad. I'll take Cal minus 3.5 against Arizona. Marshall, Troy, 2 teams that have had big wins almost for Troy in the last 3 weeks. These 2 teams, I think, are going to have a heated battle down the stretch. I'm going to go under 51.5. I just don't see them scoring a ton of points. And we've seen what happened with Marshall. They basically needed all their points on defense, and they played Notre Dame. NC State is playing UConn. How in the world this line's only 38.5? I don't know. UConn stinks. NC State's probably a top 10 team. I'm going to take NC State minus 38.5. Yeah, huge number. We're going to go Miami of Ohio plus 7.5, playing Northwestern on the road. Northwestern shouldn't be favored by that much against anyone. They stink. I will not trust them at all this year. Miami of Ohio, however, gave Kentucky a game on the road earlier in the year. If you remember that one, week 1. I'll take Miami of Ohio as plus 7.5. We've got Oklahoma minus 13 against Kansas State, who just lost to Tulane last week. Yikes. Oklahoma, I think, is a good team now. I didn't trust them until I seen what they did the last few weeks. They can score with Gabriel there at quarterback and Venables with the defense. We got BC, Florida State over 48. I think BC is better than people are giving them credit for. Florida State has showed that they can score points, even with the backup quarterback. And 48 is just such a low number. You got to will that one into it. So I'll take them over 48. We got Utah minus 15.5 playing Arizona State, who just fired Herm Edwards, probably on the field, honestly. And they lost to Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan is not a good MAC school. I don't care what you say. Utah is what I thought a potential college football playoff team. They have to win this game by at least 17 points, which is past the number. So there you go. And then last, they got Washington minus 13.5. They're playing Stanford. Stanford, usually a sneaky team, but Washington, if you've been watching what's going on over there, Penix, yikes, man. He is slinging the rock. Where was that at last year for Indiana? 13.5 should not be a bad number for them after what they just did to Michigan State. So that is the card. The hammer play of the week. Been going back and forth on this one. By the way, we are 1-2 in hammer plays now because Michigan State, I mean, what were you doing? You know what? I'm going to go confidence. USC minus 6 is the hammer play of the week. If you don't like that one, my other one I was thinking about was Miami of Ohio plus 7.5. I really just don't see how that's, it's Northwestern. What are we doing? So that's the card. We're going to have a huge week going 60% here. I don't know how many plays that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 plays. We're winning 13 of them. I'm just calling it right now. Till next time, fam. Deuces.